My name's Barbara. I'm 27 and I'm single. I moved into this neighborhood about a year and a half ago because it looked like a nice family area. I enjoy being around families, but mine's in California now since Dad's transfer, so I only see them at Christmas. I had considered moving with them, but I got a good job offer here, and I really wanted to stay in this part of the country. Besides, there's a large ward here, and I thought I'd make a lot of friends. Well, things started off okay. My neighbor and some other members came over, and I really appreciated it.
Hello. Welcome to the neighborhood.
Well, call us if you need anything.
Then I never saw them again except at church, or as I left for work in the morning. I love the church. I've always been active. So I found out where the Stake Young Special Interest meetings were held. But when I went to a fireside, I found they were having a hard time getting the group going.
My great pleasure.
We'd probably have more people coming out if we got more support from the wards.
Appear here tonight and to
But we haven't had any of the ward leaders visit our meetings yet.
several months ago when
And Aaron over there is one of the few who has a ward job.
participated in
Maybe they don't know how much we'd like one.
Well, I did get a calling as a visiting teacher, and I enjoyed getting to know at least 3 of the women in the ward. I wanted so much to feel like I belonged. Then something happened that made the bishop more aware of how single people feel. His niece got a divorce. She and her 2-year-old son came to live with them.
She needs to get out and meet people. Why won't she go to the singles meetings?
Maybe she needs to feel like people in the ward accept her. Can't you find a job for her in one of the organizations?
Well, the bishop did find her a job. She was called to be a primary teacher. Then he showed a greater concern for the singles groups. And as he began to realize the resources available to the ward by using talented single members, he made his concern a set part of the agenda in ward meetings. He tried to build enthusiasm in the ward leaders, especially the leaders of the Melchizedek Priesthood Quorum and the Relief Society president, because they're the ones who have the principal leadership responsibility over the singles in the ward. He helped his counselor, who is over us, to understand how much we needed to be a part of things.
But aren't their needs taken care of in their own groups?
The bishop began to visit our meetings, and then he visited some of us so he could find out what our needs really were. He asked us about our interest and our background, and he even took notes so he could remember. Then he invited us over to his home for a Sunday fireside several times.
And so we can see from the Savior's example how important it is to become like him.
Thank you, Bishop. It was so good to attend a fireside conducted by a priesthood leader.
I guess he reported his experiences with us and the other groups of single members, because gradually things started to happen.
I've been thinking about the singles groups. I really need to do something like the bishop's been doing. After all, they're really my responsibility.
How about a barbecue in the backyard?
Well, there might be too many.
Then we can have several barbecues. Potluck.
Yeah, we could have 3, one for each age group. But you think they'd want to have a barbecue with us old married folks?
Why not? We're all people.
We had more people turn up at that barbecue than we'd had at any of our firesides, and the good feelings carried over to Sunday and other times. Brother Merkley began to recognize us individually, and he'd stop and talk when he saw us. He and his wife started coming to our singles activities, and that really seemed to boost the morale of the group. He also kept himself aware of what our groups were doing week to week and encouraged those who weren't coming to join us. His concern for us had a side benefit, too. We started to show more personal concern for one another. Some of the single men began taking the children of single parents fishing and to ball games. And we raised money to help one sister in our group get a better wheelchair. I found I really needed a chance to help people. Well, I guess Brother Merkley urged the other ward leaders to find callings for the single members too, because Brother Morris in the special interest group was called to be a scoutmaster. And Jim Jacobs in the young adults was called to be a counselor in the elders quorum presidency. I was really surprised when the Relief Society president asked me to take charge of a special Relief Society dinner.
I'm ashamed to say that I was very worried at first. I wasn't at all sure that a single girl could do a good job with such a big ward function. But as it turned out, the dinner was wonderful, and she was more organized than many married people I've worked with.
It was a real milestone for me. I didn't know I could do it, but after it was over, I felt a lot more confidence inside. A few weeks later, I was called to the Young Women's Presidency. As we became more involved in our callings, it was easier to talk to the ward members, and we found them to be more outgoing and friendly to us. However, our home teachers still seemed so uncomfortable. They just popped in and out in about 3 minutes flat. Mel, a divorced fellow in our group, had the same experience with his home teachers. So one day, in his new feeling of acceptance we were beginning to have in the ward, he mentioned it to the elders quorum president.
I'm sorry, Mel. I guess part of their attitude is my fault. I'm not sure how to approach the single members. I mean, what can we talk about that would be helpful to you?
Just ask us. I mean, couldn't our home teachers call up before the visit and ask us if there's anything...
Hello?
Barbara, this is Brother Tolman, one of your home teachers. Is there some particular subject you'd like us to discuss this month?
Sure. Thanks for asking. I've been thinking about going through the temple. Could you tell me a little about some books I might be able to read that would help me? Well, they did. That time and the month after. They also explained that I would need to counsel with the bishop because going to the temple would depend on age and maturity, since I wasn't going on a mission or getting married immediately. As time went on, we became good friends. And when my parents came and I went through the temple for the first time, my home teachers and their wives went with us. Well, that takes me up to a night a few weeks ago when I was bringing home some lumber. I got the customary wave from my neighbor. I didn't know that she talked that day with both the Relief Society president and the bishop's counselor. They had both asked her how I was, and she had to tell them she didn't know, since we never talked.
Hi, what are you making?
Some planter boxes for the backyard.
Do you, would you like some help?
Well, sure, but aren't you busy with your family?
Oh, not really. They're all having meetings tonight. How about if I come over in half an hour?
Sure. Thanks. We spent most of the evening together, hammering and painting.
I feel awful I haven't been over before, but I didn't want to bother you.
I guess I was afraid of doing the same thing by going over to your house. We laughed about it then, but I realize now how much we missed in that year and a half. Just because she's married and I'm single. That seems like ages ago. We're such good friends now. It's funny. No matter who you are, you need to feel you're a part of a neighborhood and a part of a ward. By the way, the singles activities on all 3 age levels are functioning much better now since we feel like the ward supports and accepts us. For the first time in many years, I feel like I belong. And that's a good feeling.